Exchange BarterTalk, a show where we feature and highlight IBE members. Today our special guests are IBE members Roni and John Antenucci, owners of A&B Asset Documentation. Roni and John recently received recognition from the Chamber of Commerce as the best partners of the year. Today they're going to share with us details regarding their very successful business and how consumers benefit and save by utilizing these services. Good afternoon, Roni and John.
Good afternoon, Ron.
So tell us first how the two of you met, and then share through the years how you developed this highly successful business.
Well, how we met, that's a long story, and we actually met at a church dance in Parkchester in New York City.
That's right.
St. Raymond's Church. It was the beginning of a very wonderful and long relationship.
What dance were you engaged in?
Pardon me?
What dance were you first engaged in?
Actually, probably just a simple...
Two-step?
A two-step. Oh yeah, very tough. Yeah, two-step. Yeah, we were two-steppers.
And then through the years, you obviously were successful in business and developed this A&B Asset Documentation.
Yeah, we were people who we really had a sense of service. Our whole life has been focused on service. You know, in many different ways. We were very active in our church and through other community and other ways of being to service to people. And as a result of that, we decided that if we wanted to do something, we would want to do something to be of service to people. And we really believe that this business of A&B Asset Documentation is a very valuable source of service to people in the community.
Did you develop this concept yourself?
No, actually we did not.
Not really. It kind of came to us in a variety of different ways. That we had experienced some personal losses, and we had family members that experienced loss. And in doing some research about something that, you know, what could we do? We were kind of bored and we needed to do something. And so this came about. That you know, I read about people doing similar things, and I thought, gee, that's something we could do. And then, you know, it slowly but surely it happened. We decided to move here.
Right. Well, one of the things that triggered us, and Roni alluded to it, one of our family members was affected by Katrina. Another one was affected by a fire in Panama City, and they lost their whole house. And as a result of that, the research that Roni had done, coupled with those experiences, said this is something we can really be valuable to people, because people generally are not prepared. They think they are, but we can provide something a lot more level of detail.
So walk us through the definition of what your business concept is, and then how you execute it.
Well, basically, the objective that we have in our business is to help people to understand the value of documentation for their belongings, their personal belongings, their small business belongings. Lots of people say, oh, I have to do that. I have to make sure that I do that. I take a picture, but they don't get around to it. They somehow don't get around to it because they don't see the value unless something happens, and then it's too late. And so for us, that's a priority for us, to try and help people to understand that it is a valuable service. And so what we do basically is we categorize and we inventory property, whether it's small business or you know, individual, and we do that digitally with, you know, digital camera, but we also give them itemized inventory lists, which is really required by insurance companies.
That's what I was going to ask you. How does this meet the criteria that an insurance company would require to document the actual cost? And is your inventory documentation based on replacement cost or existing new cost?
Basically, what we have done is it's replacement cost, and that's identified by the owner. We're not appraisers. We do not do that. They identify that. We will document it to the best of our ability with serial numbers and everything else that we can do. Now, sometimes you can't reach the serial number, but most of the time you can, and you know, when we can, it's documented. If they have support documents, we can scan those.
Right.
Am I missing anything?
No.
And what we provide are reports by category and by location, and we give them hard copies of those. We also provide the DVDs that support that documentation, and we also provide them with a client information packet that would help them save some money, and to really kind of look for areas where they can really take care of themselves a little better in case of an emergency.
Well, walk me through a timeline. So I call for your services, you come up to my home, I have a 3,000 square foot home, I have antiques, I have piano, I have jewelry, I have valuables, I have artwork. From the time that I meet you to the time that you begin your process till the end result, what are we talking about specifically?
Probably about, I would say, a 3,000 square foot home. You're probably talking about from the time we have the initial conversation with you, the first thing would happen, we would do an assessment along with you in your home, and we would size it up in terms of size, what you wanted us to do, and then we would actually be doing the photographs. I would say probably 2 to 3 day job would probably do it.
In the house, John? In the house.
In the house, okay.
John always forgets the other piece.
Well, yeah. Then we go home to our office, I guess, into our office, and all of that is transposed into our computers.
So it's a two-part process.
Oh, it's a two-part process. And then what we do is we deliver a proof. Okay, we usually do the proof by location, or we can give them one by category if they prefer that. Whichever one, but we give them one proof, and then they go over it to make sure that, you know, we have everything in the correct place, that they didn't forget anything. Sometimes people do tend to say, oh, I forgot to have you do this. So there is
the proof they refer to and see what they might have omitted.
Yes, to see what they might have omitted, or maybe, you know, we made a mistake. I mean, we're not perfect. We do make mistakes. So but we make very few. I mean, it's really amazing. Then when we get their proof back, they get the whole package within a few days. Once we have their approval, they get the entire package.
Well, let me ask you a question that many people may not be aware of. I neglected to put this in my safety deposit box. My house burned down. Did you keep a record on file, which I have access to? So you're almost an insurance company of insuring the values that I have in terms of documentation and record keeping.
Yes.
We keep it. We keep it ourselves. We also have a copy in the safety deposit box.
Wow.
So that God forbid, doesn't like me to use that word, but hopefully that will not be the case. But we have it just in case.
The other thing that we do is, and this is because there are people that are very much afraid of having their stuff on the internet. When we prepare our reports, it is done on a computer that has not been connected to the internet. So they can put it on the internet, but we don't. You know, when we give them the report, what they do with it is up to them. But there are people that are very, very concerned about identity theft, and they don't want people to know their what their personal possessions are. And the other thing that we do is to never, anything that is that's in hand has not got their name on it. It has our job number on it. It does not have their name, their address. There's no connection made.
Well, success is a tough way to look at your business in terms of what you do. In my next question, in terms of sense of value, and I don't mean to say success stories, but how many people have benefited by having a loss and then having had your material in hand that enabled them? Do you have stories where you can say where people really were grateful in the end that they utilized your services because it helped replace what otherwise may have never been replaced?
Right.
We have people who are very grateful we did the service. Fortunately, they have not had any losses.
Okay, so you have had no losses.
We've had no losses.
Oh, that's wonderful.
No.
So maybe it's a good touch to be in contact with by virtue of the fact
Yes.
that it serves a dual purpose.
Yes.
Then.
There's another point I think that's a very important point. We talk to a lot of insurance people. They want their people to do this. People just don't get around to doing it. A lot of them will say, "Well, we'll sweep. We swept the place with our video camera," and they believe that's sufficient. But when push comes to shove, when all of a sudden they've lost some of your treasures, and you don't have the documentation, other than a sweep of a camera, it's not going to work for you. You need a detailed list, and that's what they want.
Okay, well, let's talk about the value of that list. How do you perform a bid as such, or how do you invoice or charge for your services that you render?
The services are charged for, we go into the home because we have to do that. And it's the size of the home, what the contents consist of, determine how much it's going to cost. But we have 3 different levels of documentation. We have the bronze plan, the silver plan, and the gold plan. Obviously, the bronze is the least expensive, and the silver is more, and gold, of course, is everything. Pretty much everything. And that depends on how many. Now, when I say this, we always take overview pictures of each room in the house. How many other pictures we take, though, depends upon the plan that the people choose. They can choose a general coverage, or they can choose a very detailed coverage. You mentioned before that you had lots of collections and you had the art collection. We do not generally do the collections at the same time we do the house because it's simply very time consuming. We did a gun collection that took 4 hours in the home. I mean, because every single piece of that, the gun, the amount of the ammunition he had for the gun, the age of the gun, all of that stuff had to be documented. And we documented all of it. That took 4 hours in the home. And I can tell you that 4 hours in the home also means easily a good 12 hours in the office. So it's a time-consuming process, which is the real reason why most people, when they really get the list from the insurance company on how to do it, because all insurance companies provide them with a list, and they realize what it is, they don't get around to it. It's because any inventory takes time.
Well, could you differentiate, just for a guide, what the pricing between the bronze, silver, and gold might be, just a guesstimate?
Yeah, I would say probably the range can go from, let's say, a small home to a large home. It can go from, let's say about $400 up to about $1,500.
That's for the gold?
Yeah, and
very reasonable.
In a large home.
Based on the time you can make, that's very reasonable.
That would not include collections, though. Collections have to be done at a separate time, and those pretty much go by the hour.
So outside of your current networking activity, which I know is substantial, and the chamber memberships, how else do you market? How do people find out about A&B? Do you do any direct mail? Do you do any internet marketing?
We tried direct mail. That really did not seem to be the way for us to go. We've done
primarily networking,
mostly. It's mostly word of mouth.
We use the barter process.
Which we're delighted that you do.
Yeah,
because one of the things that we find is, especially since we were new in the area, people needed to get to know who we were.
That's what I was going to say. One-on-one.
I wouldn't invite a stranger into my home if I didn't, to do my stuff if I didn't know who they were, and if I didn't know that they really lived in the area, that I'm in. So
we like meeting people, and the thing is, we've been here about approximately a year and a half, a little more than a year and a half now, and our whole time, besides building our business and has been getting to know people, getting to know us, and working within the community as much as we possibly can, and having people come to know and trust us in different ways so that they can then translate that into a trust in business.
Well, you're both obviously well spoken, so therefore a lot of credibility is exchanged when people meet you. How did you come about winning Partners of the Year?
Well, actually, it's Partners of the
Quarter.
Well, I was going to turn down the year thing. Maybe we'll get it.
I want to highlight it as a year. Tell me a little more about Partners of the Quarter.
As a result of that, when you're number one, being a partner in the Sarasota Chamber of Commerce, is your ambassador for the chamber. We have opportunities to meet new businesses by going out and make, number one, making phone calls, we call them courtesy calls, to see how things are going with different businesses in the area. We also, when a new company comes into the business, we have the opportunity to actually go to them with a package, with their plaque, and then having a nice conversation with them and making them aware of all the benefits that are available through the Chamber of Commerce and is the Greater Sarasota.
So being engaged in this activity also gives you exposure for A&B Asset Documentation,
Yes.
and it also highlights how effectively you are engaged in networking and marketing.
But in that capacity, we don't, indirectly we'll get some benefit from that. But we go to visit these folks in these capacities. We're there for them, not for our own business.
Right.
But
A byproduct.
we do let them know independently who we are. Here's the business card, etc. But it's mainly focusing on them. But that pays dividends.
It does.
That pays dividends.
So what have I been missing? What, in recapping, give me again, maybe summarizing. I know the time that's involved, but getting more to the point that people need to realize that your services are really essential in terms of a community where people have valuables, they have investments that they want to protect, they want to secure, but as we all know, when an insurance company comes in, they can differentiate based on what you provide in documentation and what the real value of something was. So you go beyond and beyond by not only photographing, but giving a copy and digitally mastering a overall insightful view of the products, or I should say the materialistic values within a home. Is that correct to say?
That's correct to say. And third-party documentation, which is really what we do, is really looked upon very highly by insurance companies. And I don't want to minimize, there are other reasons besides insurance for
But what you say, if I can interrupt you,
Sure.
that is a very valuable point, because you're not emotionally involved with the particular item, so that you're placing a value that may be disproportionate to what it's really worth. So as a third party company, you come in there and give a real value in terms of documenting what the value is, and the insurance company can make a appraisal or a guesstimation based on this third party's input, as opposed to, that's, my wife's dress is worth $3,000 to her, when in fact, when it got discolored at the cleaner, it really wasn't that. Or, that Rolex that disappeared, well, actually they have it here as a certain category as opposed to what you're claiming it is. So obviously it brings credibility, but I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No. That's perfectly right. You're absolutely right about that. But the other thing that happens is there are really other reasons for documentation that we kind of, we tend to focus on the disasters of life, but the reality is there are other reasons for it.
For estates and wills?
Estates, wills, prenups, divorce,
blended families. You got his and her furniture. You want to know who's going to get, also getting ready to go to an assisted living facility. What is the condition? There's many different reasons.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And we try to make people aware of all these possibilities.
Condo rentals. That's an area we really haven't even begun to explore. But the reality is many people rent out their condos.
Furnished.
Yeah, furnished. Those should all be documented. They really should be. But do they do it? Some of them do. Some of them really, but they usually, it's with a video camera. And we will do video if people insist on video, but we will also we basically do digital photography because that is what they prefer. That is what insurance companies do prefer.
Well, what I'm hearing is there's certainly a lot of opportunity for expansion. In fact, a thought comes to mind right away when you're going to these network functions. If you meet property managers that know that properties are going to be leased, what a way to have an introduction for these outstanding services.
We just connected with the Sarasota Area Realtors, Association of Realtors.
Right.
And our hope is there to give them the benefit of our service and help them to realize that they can even use this as a possible way as a gift to their client, to give them full documentation of their whole process.
Well, a thought that just crossed my mind is the Gulf Coast businesses. I don't know if you've ever heard of this organization. Well, they have about 400 business owners that participate every month and I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of them do high-end, high-quality marble, bronze work. That work's also being documented, I would assume, when you're in the home.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's. Oh yeah. That stuff is documented. I mean.
In the bathrooms and the kitchen.
In the bathrooms,
we
the
do it all.
kitchen,
We
and
do
it's
everything.
yes, and it's really kind of fun in a way, because the challenge is to avoid getting yourself in the picture in the bathrooms with all the mirrors.
Well, candidly, I'm not aware of anyone else that's engaged in this type of activity in our community.
There are a couple of people that are engaged in this kind.
But they're not networking like Ronnie and
Not
John.
where we are. No. No.
So what's A&B stand for?
Well, A&B, we came up with it because we believed, okay, we're starting out the business, okay, if you're going to be on a list, A&B at the beginning, but
that
we
means
realized
something.
from there,
It does mean something.
I'm Antenucci, and my wife's maiden name, Ronnie's Bauer. A&B, Antenucci and Bauer. So.
Here I thought it was asset benefit documentation.
Nope.
It is, A&B, Asset Documentation Services, LLC.
Well, I think we're absolutely delighted to know more about the business that you're engaged in. We're glad that the public now can get an overview that not only are you involved in protecting their assets, but you're out there networking, meeting the type of folks that need to know about your services, and I truly believe the service you offer is invaluable to certainly anyone in the IBE exchange, but also anyone in the business community who has an opportunity to view this interview on our various social medias. I want to thank you both for coming today and joining us, and if in closing there are any additional comments you'd like to make, please feel free to right now.
No, I thank you for the opportunity. This is wonderful.
Appreciate that very, very much. We really appreciate
Ronnie,
your
you are
support.
stunning and charming.
Oh, well, thank you.
And John, a real delight to
Thank you very
visit with
much.
you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well, that is another issue of IBE's Barter Talk. We're delighted to have had our two guests today, Ronnie and John Antenucci, who offer a wonderful service through A&B Asset Documentation, and we encourage anyone seeking additional information about their services, whether you're a member of IBE or a consumer looking to protect your own inventory, your own valuables within your home, to feel free to contact the IBE Barter Exchange, and we'll be delighted to give additional information. Thank you for your time, and thank you for viewing.